Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Macola 10, a single solution to automate, manage, and grow your business. My name is Nick Mears, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Macola, a division of Exact. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce our other presenter for today's webinar, Steve Featherston. Senior Business Consultant, Pre-Sales, has been with Exact for 4 years. Prior to that, Steve managed the implementation of Macola for many Exact customers. Prior to Exact, for 16 years, he worked in 3 different companies, all using Macola. Before this, Steve owned his own business for 22 years in the consumer electronics industry. So thanks, Steve, for joining us. And thanks, everyone else, for joining us as well. We're glad you joined us today. So let's take a look at what we'll be covering today. First off, who uses Macola? Second, why is Macola different? And third, how can Macola help you? So who uses Macola? Well, primarily the companies that use Macola are either manufacturing or distribution companies. So that could be just about anything, especially those that are in what we think of as discrete or process manufacturing. That can be metals, it can be household goods, it can be food and beverage, it can be injection molding, industrial machinery. So if you're in that space creating something, or a space similar to that, creating something in a manufacturing environment, then you're probably a good candidate for us. We have thousands and thousands of customers who have used Macola and just to solve their needs. Now, size. From a size perspective, we typically target what we think of as a small and medium business space. For us, that means anywhere from about 20, which would be a really small company, up to about 10,000 employees. But this doesn't mean you have to have 20 licenses for 20 people. Usually what we see, companies buy anywhere from about 25%, maybe up to a high of about 50%. So if an organization has 100 employees, maybe they're buying 25, 35, or 50 licenses. And of course, we're happy to explain what those licenses do and how you might want to implement them in your business. Geography, primarily focused on the Americas, with the U.S. being our dominant footprint, but certainly Canada and Latin America are becoming very exciting markets for us as well. So Macola's been around for a while, over 40 years in fact. And in that time, over 8,000 customers have relied on Macola to run their businesses. Macola 10 is what we like to call all-inclusive and scalable, meaning that you get more functionality for a better ROI. And because it's scalable, it's something you can grow into. We'll talk more about the scalability of Macola 10 later on. When we think about who relies on Macola, well, there's all kinds of companies. We have a few here, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the slide because although it has some companies that you might recognize, at the same time, it's not necessarily representative because a lot of our customers are ones that you really wouldn't recognize. They're companies that may be behind the scenes. They're companies that feed into the supply chain. So maybe you've heard of a Simple Green, but yet maybe you probably haven't heard of the other 95% of our customers who make something for the supply chain. So we love it because people recognize some of these names, but it's not always representative of our full customer group. So who could benefit from Macola 10? Well, we're going to give a couple examples here, and the first is anyone who's experiencing one of these 4 pain points. This first one is anyone who's in an organization that has siloed information. Maybe you have information that exists solely in different teams or in different departments, none of which is known or accessible across the organization. Second, it's information that's everywhere. Information and can be in offices or on the shop floor, on non-shared computers, or worst of all, it could even be not even on a computer. It could be in different individuals' heads. In this case, it's not software, but it's actually sneakerware, where you have to walk down to the shop floor and find out the answers to your questions. The third one, if you're seeing lost tasks, well, you might be able to be helped by Macola 10. Macola can be helpful for those organizations who who are finding that they are losing these tasks. And it can help automate or integrate processes to ensure that tasks aren't lost. Now the fourth area is unknown responsibilities. You have the who's following up, not me, So if you're seeing this, then Macola could be helpful for you. Let's move on here to the 6 benefits. I like to think that Macola can offer these 6 benefits for your organization. First is improved visibility and control of enterprise processes. Second is reduce costs and increase revenue. Third, reduced errors and improved accuracy. 4, spotting bottlenecks and redundancies while increasing efficiencies. 5, reducing manual effort and paperwork while increasing productivity. And that gets a lot of people's attention and can save a lot of time. And then 6, increasing customer and employee satisfaction. But before we go too much further, I actually wanted to get your guys' feedback. So I'm going to launch a poll here. And if you could, everyone, I'd like to hopefully see you cast a vote. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing your business? Is it A, or collaborating across functions, meeting productivity revenue goals, making processes more efficient? Ooh, was tied neck and neck, centralizing data, ensuring compliance and traceability. Give you another couple of seconds here. Just go ahead and take your mouse and click on the button. So the winner here is making processes more efficient. And a tie for second, collaborating across functions and meeting productivity revenue goals. Steve, what do you think about the outcome here?
I was taking a guess right from the beginning on the making processes more efficient, so I guess I won. I'm part of the 38%. Interesting on the other 2 who are tied. I thought centralized data collection might have been a little stronger.
Sure. Well, I guess in the audience we have today, making processes more efficient is a pressing need for them. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll have another poll later on, but I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your thoughts with us. So let's move on. What makes Macola different? Well, for starters, let's take a look at some industry recognition that we've recently received. Just recently, we won an award from Frost & Sullivan for product leadership in ERP. When describing Macola, Frost & Sullivan mentioned things like complete functionality and highly scalable. They also said personalized workspaces, role-specific views. I like this. It's integrated and scalable. Thanks, Frost & Sullivan. We appreciate the kind words, and hopefully you guys will all see what they're talking about in the demo coming up. So what makes Macola different? From all-inclusive value to flexible purchase options. Let's take a quick closer look right here. All-inclusive value. From manufacturing and project management to distribution, quality management and accounting and finance, human resources, CRM, just to name a few of all the things that are included. You may want all of them, or you may only need a few. Either way, you can start with the ones you're ready for and grow into the rest later at no additional charge. It's all inclusive, so there's no gotcha fees at the end. And from manufacturing to customer relationship, these are just a few of the features and functionalities that can help you. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see, Steve, right, that there is quite a breadth of breadth and depth of features and functionality for Macola 10.
Definitely touch many functional areas.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we had so much fun in the last poll. Let's do it again. Let's look at what core function of ERP does or could benefit your organization the most. And that's some of the things we were just talking about. So go ahead and cast your vote. Is it project management, manufacturing, distribution, accounting and finance? We have it's close. I was going to say a clear leader, but not quite. Give a couple more seconds here, or CRM. I didn't mention that. Go ahead and cast your vote. Okay. Looks like we have a clear leader at the moment. So Steve, off the bat, looks like 33% manufacturing, and then not too far behind is accounting and finance. What are your thoughts on this?
I had CRM above manufacturing, but it basically started from there. It's just because of the amount of interest people are getting in trying to keep in touch with their customers. But obviously today that is not the strongest point. Manufacturing was my next selection, and that's probably about right.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate. Thank you for your vote. Let's move on here. So, what makes Macola different? There's integration between business functions, sales, support, purchasing, production, C-suite, and we're going to see an example of that integration when Steve presents here. Next is configuration instead of customization. Macola is cost-effective with out-of-the-box configurability, without the need for costly, can be costly customizations. Automated workflows increase efficiencies, reduce manual effort and paperwork, and improve visibility and control of enterprise processes. So what do we mean by automated workflows? Well, here's an example that you might see. Sometimes you have all these disparate actions and tasks that aren't connected, but they certainly cause pain points, such as a paper filing system, delays before a mailbox checked, multiple data entry, siloed data. So what we recommend first is that you organize, put these into process flow. And then once you organize them, you can actually, with automated workflows, you can actually start replacing entire tasks. Some of these workflows eliminate 2 or 3 tasks at a time. And this is just one example. So you can see how this could be very powerful, and you can configure it to the needs of specific workflows and the needs of your organization. And that's what we mean by automated workflows. Next up, personalizable views into the data that matters to you. Basically, you have 42 out-of-the-box role-based ready-made workspaces, the ability to create custom workspaces. If you don't like those 42, you can perform transactions, menus on transactional screens. You can have access to key KPIs and create those KPIs or configure them based off of the role. So it can be very powerful. Next up, anytime, any device, from desktop to laptop, and everything in between. We're actually going to show a couple of the iPhone, the mobile app, and the tablet, how it looks on there as well. And some of our new screens look fantastic as well. All right, last up is flexible purchase options, from perpetual to subscription, ELA. Talk with one of our representatives and we can find what works best for you. Now, how can Macola help you? Well, each business function, each role has different responsibilities and different needs. We try to address these roles and these responsibilities and these needs. Here's just a few of the different roles that Macola can help with, from the president all the way down to the IT manager and all of the roles in between. We try to address your needs. I just have a couple examples here. I love this. It says this was in the metal fab. It used to take us between 3 to 5 days to quote one of our larger jobs, and now with Macola we're down to half a day. Significant savings in time. Plus, if it's time-sensitive quote, it's getting to the prospect, to the customer, that much quicker. Next up, this is a food and beverage example. In one department, we drop 4 hours every day on one task. And that's really just by using workflows and document management. That's GL Mazzetti. Can you imagine dropping four hours a day just in one task, in one role? That is an amazing time savings. And this is just a single example. We see that all the time. Okay, so next up I'm going to hand this over to Steve, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Macola 10 quote to cash process.
Well, thank you, Nick. Good afternoon, folks. Today we're going to take a walk through the quote-to-cash process in the latest version of Macola 10. This is 10.5.1 is what we're going to be looking at, released last week. We're going to be using a role-based interface to assume some of the roles of the different individuals that are involved in this process, and we want to highlight some of what might be automated features and show some of the mobile capabilities either through a smartphone app or through an iPad or a tablet type device. But we're going to end up walking through an order to cash process flow. We'll see if I can keep up with this illustration as it flows. But that order to cash is going to start out with our sales rep, Ron Cali there, is going to enter a sales order. And he may end up processing that sales opportunity, and enter a quote from that. Might take that quote, review it in the field. He may actually convert that. We're going to end up converting it to an order in the field and then notify someone in sales, which is our support person, Robin, who's going to end up reviewing that order and then possibly printing pick tickets and travelers alongside for that order to be processed. When that happens, it's going to end up notifying most of the company's individuals that need to know about a rush order or order of high importance. So when the pick ticket's printed, an ID will go out to purchasing. Purchasing will review MRP and determine what they need to buy. They may create a PO, release a PO, receive that PO. Production individuals would get notification of this order coming in. That's a rush, and may go and see that the production order is automatically created, might confirm inventory that he has it on it, release that production order, and report production, move that product to shipping. Shipping sees a heads-up notification on this, looks at his shipping schedule, and ends up in turn shipping that order out. That might trigger a workflow to finance saying that that order needs to be billed. He in turn bills and invoices that order, hopefully in short order receives cash, and our CEO may end up reviewing the whole results on his dashboard through real-time KPIs.
Well done, Steve. Now you can take a breath now.
There you go. So we're going to end up seeing this in action at the moment. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a desktop version of Macola 10. We're working with Cambridge Compressor Company, and this is set up, as I mentioned, in a role-based environment for me to step through the different processes. But for today's demonstration, we are the gentleman up top in the right, Ron Cali. He happens to be at his hotel, and maybe he shut his laptop off and wants to move over to some type of a mobile device. So we're going to bring up his iPad and take a look and see what that screen looks like from the iPad installation. So here is Macola 10 native app using an iPad. This is not a downloaded app. This is just going to the portal that you're able to get to your servers with and being able to display information. From there you can get to all of the features that normally you can get to in Macola 10 by accessing all the different elements as we're doing here. Now, with that said, he has the availability to then go in turn and review his schedule and see what he's got going on. So I'm going to go to my human resource card, take a look at my planning calendar to see what I've got going on from my hotel. And today being July 12th, that's the Wednesday here, I'm going to end up clicking on this orange icon as what I've got going on for today. And that in turn opens up a request or a scheduled appointment for me to do a sales call at Dove Equipment Corporation. I need to see the buyer there, Javier. We're going to be talking about air compressors is basically what we're selling. I've linked in the item itself, and I've tied it to a sales opportunity, number 123, for 30 horsepower scroll compressors for this particular project. Now, finance wants me to track all of my sales of compressors, so I've also got this tied to a project. So from any of these hyperlinks, I can either go to Dove Equipment or I could go to the opportunity there. Let's try going to Dove Equipment and go to their account card. And that in turn will end up opening up the account card for Dove Equipment. And I can kind of adjust my screen as to what I'd like to see here, but I'm interested in the opportunity that we have out there with them. So I'm going to click on Opportunities and go down to Opportunity 123. So if I go out to opportunity 123, I'm able to get into that opportunity and see that it's a $30,000 opportunity with a 90% chance of closure. So it's a $27,000 opportunity at the moment. There may be workflow that's involved with this opportunity. I may have tied it to a particular item in inventory. I have a partner, the American Electric Power, that's working with me. And I also have some competition that sell similar products. So I'm able to kind of go through this and look at the opportunity and get the details of this through the native app and kind of prepare myself for going out and seeing these folks. Now let's assume I'm actually on the customer site and I'd like to maybe put a quote in for them. Now I'm going to take the advantage, let me pop back over to my main screen. I'm going to take the advantage of some of the new screens that have come out in Macola 10.5. Our development group is going through great efforts to change the user interface to these to make them a little bit more flexible for mobile devices, for tablets, and maybe a little bit more intuitive. So if I go over to some of the new screens that we have an item snapshot, an item inquiry, and order entry screens that are all in kind of a new format. And with the item snapshot, for instance, I believe they compressed about 14 different separate screens we'd used to get to through multiple level item view into a single work screen for it. So, and these are all adjustable, so I can kind of move them back and forth and flip my view on this with my iPad and be able to get kind of a different view. I can select multiple divisions from here, but if I were to go and say I'd like to look at a particular item in inventory, let's say I'm looking for a bike AS. Now it has type ahead search, so it's trying to identify the part that I want to look for right in advance of me getting it completely typed in. And I can switch my views on this or adjust it in size so that I can see what's on hand, what's allocated, what's back ordered, how much is actually available. And some of those screens that have been narrowed down to one desktop screen are down here at the bottom, where if I want to see open customer orders, I can click on the open orders for it and drill into the detail of those. Now, these all involve infinite scrolling, so I can scroll as far down as I have customer orders for. I also can reorient them by the search icons here, the arrows up and down, to be able to search by promise date or by order number. Now we'll go into shop floor control. We'll be able to see any shop floor orders that we may have for that particular item. So that's one of the new screens that's available to us. And seeing as I'm on site with Dove Equipment, and we've been talking about that sales opportunity that we had a quick look at, I'm going to end up going to order entry. We're going to end up putting an order in for Dove Equipment for one of these items. Actually, we're going to do a quote first. So this is 2033 is, I believe, their account number. And it starts to search. As you see, it identifies it. We'll grab Dove Equipment Corporation, and I may say, well, this is not going to be an order. This is going to be a quote, so I'll change this to quote. I do have the availability to change detail in the header about ship to and persons, salespeople, those types of things. We're going to end up looking for a particular item in inventory. So this is an SLE series of air compressors, specifically the 30 horsepower scroll compressor, and it then in turn fills that in. Now, I can change my promise dates, my request dates, all from this screen. I can end up adding this to the order, and then I can add another line item to it. So let's just add this to the quote, and I've now got a quote in place for them, and I can kind of expand and compress the different fields up here. So if I want to compress the header or expand the header, I can. If I want to expand or compress the line items, I can do that also. When I've got my order in place, I'm going to hit the submit button up here, and it'll end up saying that we've just created a quote for that particular customer. Now, with that said, in further conversation with the folks at Dove, I might actually be getting a PO for this today. So I could end up looking at the Dove Equipment Corporation and do an order search for this and be able to surface any orders that I may have for them. And I should be able to pull that quote up, which you see on the bottom here, quote number 223. Click on that. It then brings me that quote in place so that I can review the header and the detail on it. If I wanted to edit it or change it or delete it, I could. From here, we're going to end up creating a new sales order from it. So I'm going to convert this to a new order. So we'll allow this to convert quote 223. Yes, we'll let that convert to a new sales order, and we have successfully done that. So these screens are a little different. These enable people to have a lot more real estate on the devices that they might actually have in place with the customer, and they can bring up details about those items, like the scroll compressor that we're dealing with, and almost provide for them technical specs and drawings and things like that directly from this device. So if I just search for an SLE series of compressors here, I should be able to surface some of those. Here it is here. We'll bring up this compressor, and we now have images and details of what that compressor looks like. And I can then in turn say, well, if you'd like the line brochure, if you'd like technical specs about it, we can go to the documents and pull up those images, and in turn, just basically email them right from the tablet device. So a lot of great functionality that we can tie in by both using a mobile app, which you haven't shown here, but this is a direct interface or a native application to Macola 10. We'll kind of pop off of this for the moment and move on to the next. So if he's actually put that quote in and he's processed that order with him and he's kind of headed off to his next site, maybe he's looking at his cell phone to determine what he's going to be doing next. So we'll bring up the mobile app that's available for the iOS or Apple series of phones or the Android phones, and be able to see what that looks like. So in the Macola 10 mobile app, I can check a variety of different things. I can look things up. I can put orders in through this, although the interface is a little smaller for my older eyes. So I probably would prefer the iPad interface or a tablet interface. But if I wanted to check my workflow, I can go in and see what I have in the way of incoming workflow tasks. So maybe something's come up. I got that sales call sitting on top from Dove Equipment Corporation. That's kind of what we just did with the quotation and the sales order processing. I have PTO that I've got scheduled. I see we have something that was damaged in shipment with Bicorama, so maybe I'd drill into the details of that and see what kind of problem that they're having. They're having a problem with a product that was shipped to them, a 30 horsepower compressor. They've attached some images to this, and I'm kind of following, what it's going on with it. As you see in the center here that we're actually going to send them a replacement for it. So somebody's already taken care of that particular issue. With that said, we can drill into details of select accounts. We were just at Dove Equipment Corporation, so I can go into Dove and be able to look at details of that. I can get mapping information about where they're actually located, drill into their accounts and be able to get the account detail. But coming out of Dove, that call went kind of quickly, so I'm going to see if there's any other customers around the area that I could go and visit. So I'm going to use this proximity function. It's identifying me as being in North Jersey. And around me within the last 50 miles or so is two different companies that I can go and see that use our product. One is John's Hot Dog Shop, the other being Marlowe Manufacturing. So if I from here drill into Marlowe, I should be able to in turn get up their addressing information, map details. If I want to give them a call and see if Tony's available for me to meet, I can drill into his account card and then also make a phone call directly from this account card. So nice if you have a few moments real fast between filling up for gas or whatever, that you can use this app to get the details that you want. You can also run item inquiries on it if we wanted to see how much we have of a particular item in inventory. Let's try a bike AS, for example, and I need to just type bike AS correctly and I'll probably do better. So when I search for bike AS like that, it ought to in turn bring me back the detail that I have 953 of them in Massachusetts, 971 in my California locations. And these are all live to the moment. So if I'm looking at item inquiries or I'm bringing up a workspace that might be a mobile sales dashboard, this probably works better on an iPad, but I can squeeze this and make this work for my iPhone. If I turn it kind of sideways and maybe reduce its size a little bit, I can get an idea of my previous day's sales, any past due quotes that are out there, and again, My sales for Dove equipment, which that order that just went in will be part of the future sales for Dove. I can get information like that kind of directly from some of the workspaces that are available through the mobile app. So great functionality there. As I step out of this and we go back to our actual Macola 10 environment, what's happened when Ron put in that quote and converted it is that automation may have picked up and notified people in the company that we just got an order that was put in for the scroll compressor, that the ship to date and the order dates, requested ship dates are all the same date. That kind of triggers it to be a rush order, something that has to go out the door pretty quickly. So if I log in as one of our sales support people, we're going to go in as Robin Smith, and we look at her desktop. Now, her desktop's configured for her, so she's gone and adjusted this the way she likes. And the nice part about Macola 10 is you want to adjust where things are, or what features you want in place. You want to drag your workflow up here. You want to put in an icon or a setup for the local weather. You can do all of that as the user. It doesn't require, you know, an IT intervention. It's just configuration. But she's got a heads-up alert here that rush order was just entered for Dove equipment, so I might drill into that heads-up alert and take a look. It's got a hyperlink to an order. Ron put this in, so we'll go and look at that hyperlink. I can see we're going to be doing a SLE series of air compressors that needs to go out the door. Now, as most people who process orders, they take a good look at what the salesmen have put in, make sure that all the fields have been put in correctly and everything's filled out right. And from here, she could send maybe an order acknowledgement to the customer, although I might have that do it automatically, or I might in turn print the pick ticket for this and get this going, you know, out the door and down the road and possibly out of the building today. So Robin will have done her part in this, and if our purchasing team comes in and arrives, they also could get a heads-up alert that, you know, a rush order was put in place. If we go and take a look at what they see, Jack has got this heads-up alert that rush order number 1040 was just put in for Dove, and he knows, I could drill into this and see it's for that SLE series of compressors. He knows that Night MRP has run and has gone and generated recommendations for, you know, what you may need to buy. So I'm going to ask the system to tell me, do I have to buy anything for that SLE series of compressors? So I'm going to type in the code for that particular type of product, and as I go through this, it pops up and tells me I'm going to be short on 6 pieces of a motor mount and 6 pieces of a motor that goes on it, and also an installation kit. And so I have the choice of processing this right off the bat. I'm going to ask it to create a PO for me. So I'm going to select all of these items. This could be a list of 100 things that are necessary, and we'll let the system just go and create the purchase order for it. It has now selected them all. As I step out, it's going to say, are you sure you want to create this PO? And it's going to create an unreleased PO, and we might see this to the screen, or I can just roll it to the disk because I probably can find that purchase order without issue. Now I'll go into enter the purchase order application, and I should be able to find an unreleased PO that was just created by my actions there. So one of the most recent purchase orders would be 547 here. It is an unreleased PO for Shimani. When I drill into this and tab through it, there are the items that I need for this particular order. I'm going to in turn release this purchase order, so I do have manual control of that automation. Say save, and as I step out of it, it's going to want to print that purchase order. Now I have to print this because that is the confirmation that your purchase order was authorized or able to be received. And so we'll just see a real quick view of that purchase order, and that's 547 is the PO. And as I step out, it's going to say, are you sure this printed correctly? That's that switch that enables me to then in turn receive against that purchase order. So we might go directly into receiving and receive the items that have come in for it. So I'll do that in this function here. We'll go into the receiving application for PO number 547 if I haven't written it down wrong, and that is Shimani Corporation. Now I can count, I got 6, 6, and 1, so I'm going to receive these all as ordered with the button up top here, and allow the system to receive all of the items on the PO without me having to do them individually. We'll do it with today's receipt date. I can put a packing slip number in it or some detail about carrier or freight. Hit save on this, and we should see it step through the various line items, and it has now received all of those items. So Jack's done his part. We've got a sales order in the system. Pick tickets have gone out. Purchasing's received their materials for it. And hopefully, if the Lords of Macola work right, when we go into production, Bruce should be able to find a unreleased production order tied to that sales order so that he can actually produce this product. So we'll go and take a look and see if we have an SLE series of air compressors in an unreleased step as a production order to fire off. So I'm going to select this. That was created as the sales order was entered. That's actually a setup of an item to do that for you. So we do see this. We see it's tied to customer number 2033. We're going to end up releasing this order, much like the PO. It does have a human intervention for releasing it. We'll print the production order for it so that we can get all of the details of what needs to be pulled from the materials that have been ordered to be able to put this item together. We've got our ticket on that, and we're going to end up reporting production on this. So if I go in and look to report production on production order number 396, we should be able to just say the order's complete. But I know I've got time in this. People had to put it together, and I don't necessarily have time tied to my bill of materials, so I'm going to add some time on the fly here for what would cover the assembly time and the labor that's involved. And we'll put in a certain element of time for that and save that labor record with it. Say this order is complete. Now, when I hit save, it's going to complete the production order. It's going to put the item into stock, and this item is either serialized or lotted, so we're going to see that inventory transaction and be able to see the serial number that's involved with it. So that would be that prefix with a 225 is the next numeric number for it. Say OK to this, and we now have an order completed in stock for that particular item. Next in our line here, as we follow the flow that Nick had me read off, is from production. It's going to end up being wheeled down to shipping. So we're going to assume the role of somebody in shipping, and that's going to be Peter Bailey. We log in as him. His desktop may be a little different. Possibly all he needs, he did get a heads-up alert that this order is coming, so he's aware of it. Possibly all he needs, though, is a lineup report that he looks at maybe from the beginning of the day to the end of the day that just shows him what needs to go out for today. Now, we're looking at a lot of data from my past tests with this, so if you were to say, I'd like to refine this to what's got to go out from the 10th of this month to the 14th of this month and hit refresh, now I'm just looking at what's got to go out this week. And we should be able to see order number 1040 here, which is an SLE series of air compressors going ground shipment to Dove Equipment in Monroe, Virginia. And I can do transactions directly from this by kind of launching this. So if I want to print the bill of lading or print the packing slip or any other forms or barcode labels that might be related, I could do that from here. I can see the manufacturing order over here on the right that we produce the product with, and I can actually probably drill in and look at details related to that. If I needed some documentation that came from that, I could get that from here. Now in my environment, I do have confirm ship turned on, which means that I have an extra step. It'll relieve the inventory out of, or the product out of inventory before the billing process, and we're going to go through that step now. So I'm going to confirm that this order has shipped. Before I do that, notice that the status here is in a booked status, so I know that I haven't worked with it before. I go and click on 1040 and say I'm going to ship this order, and it brings me up the confirm ship screen, and I'm going to say yes, I want to ship it. I want to ship everything on that order with today's date, and it's tied in the serial number of what was produced from the shop order or the production order and tied to the sales order originally. So all I have to do is basically confirm that that is in fact the serial I'm using, and I've now attached the item to this. As I step out of it, I can say, you know, we're going to be $100 worth of freight materials, and then again we're going to be $20 worth of miscellaneous charges, and I've set my shipping information. Now, from here, the shipping software or whatever you might use, whether UPS, FedEx, or LTL, would complete the product actually getting to the customer, but it has left the building and is no longer visible in inventory. So if I hit refresh on my report here, that order should come back and show that it has been confirmed shipped. It has left the building. So I've completed my portion of this. As far as the funds are concerned related to that order, they're held in a temporary ship stage account until you actually do bill that order out. And then it will end up in its final GL position. So we're going to do that as somebody in a role in finance. We're going to log in as Joe Whitmore. And he may have a heads-up notification that not only was there a rush order, but by the fact that Peter Bailey shipped that product out, he may also get a notification that there's an order that needs to be invoiced. Now, this may work fine for, you know, those rush orders or the occasional order here or there. If you're processing 500 orders a day, getting notifications like this might be done a different way. But you can see down here he's got the heads-up alert that a rush order was put in. We also got a notification that this order has been shipped, which means I can bill out order 1040. So I'm going to go to billing, and we'll select 1040. And we'll say we're going to bill this. We'll bill everything on this order for today's date. And as I step through this, we'll see the details that was put in by Peter in shipping of the freight charges and miscellaneous. I also see we're starting to calculate taxation and also commission details on it. Say save to this. I have now set that order in a status that I've completed the billing, and we need to print invoices for this. Now I could run this for an entire range of invoices or just select the one order that I want involved, but I do actually have to print it to be able to post these invoices. So we'll see this come up with the detail of the compressor and should show the serial number that's involved being on the invoice. And here we have our compressor and our serial number. We've got the details of our freight costs and miscellaneous charges. And as I step out of this, this is the last opportunity that you have to modify this order if there's something wrong with it before you post it. So salesman's right, order, ship date, all of that's supposedly good. And we'll say, yes, the order printed correctly. And we have completed that portion of it. And he can now actually post that that series of invoices, whether it be one or a batch of them. So we'll let him go and post all of the invoices that are out there. And we should see that order pop up here. 1040 should pop up in the list of orders that we're posting for today. And that has completed that portion of it. So Joe has got the product out the door, invoiced, posted invoice. Let's assume some time has gone by and he can actually receive cash on it. We'll accelerate that by just a little bit, and I'll end up receiving cash for that order and hopefully match that to that. So we're going to do a new cash entry, cash flow. And this is going to go to a select bank account. It could have multiple bank accounts if I wanted to. I'm going to select this particular one, and we're going to say that they've going to pay probably $29,000 on that invoice. That's at least the check that we've gotten from them. I could type in a check number if I happen to have a check number for it. Deposit date, I like to use, you know, the date for today, which would be 7/12/2017, and we'll throw in today's date for it and tie it to the customer at hand. So that's Dove Equipment Company number 2033. So that journalizes that cash entry, and at this point I could leave it like this, or I could actually go to the matching functionality here in the center and say I'd like to take that and match that to a particular invoice. So we can go and grab whatever invoice might have been for today and match it. It's highlighted the check that has come in for that, and we can say that we'll match it to a particular invoice, as maybe this one here, and just say match and process, and we'll end up tying it to that invoice. Now, the amount that they've paid is higher than the amount that is due, so I have a credit that I could leave as a prepayment or leave it as a balance on the account. we'll just process that as a prepayment. Those two transactions should disappear, and we've now matched cash against that particular invoice that we had at hand. So for Joe, he's done his portion of this, and the last step might be somebody in management who, is trying to look at the numbers for the day. So we'll log in as Glenn Weissman, who's our CEO, and see if we can surface his desktop. So got him listed as an executive here on my dashboard, so I'll come up and open him up. We're logging in as Glenn. He may have certain elements on his workspace that he's dropped on that he considers important, be it sales year over year, or a view of his control accounts, or an executive scorecard. But he also may have detail on the bottom down here about, that heads up alert, an order just came in for Dove equipment, so he may want to follow that. He may look into, your month-to-date sales have just changed, year-to-date sales have changed. These are all live to the moment, so he can kind of see what's just happened through the whole production and invoicing process directly from here. If he wants to drill into a little more detail, he might end up drilling into a sales dashboard from this and being able to surface something that gives him detail. And for some reason that didn't open up full screen. I'm going to try that again. We'll see if that's something to do with the WebEx or just what, but I should be able to get to a scorecard or a snapshot, so to speak, of this particular customer and see the detail of that. So try again, see if that gives me full screen, which it does. Okay, so I've been working with Dove equipment. Their sales is now $884,000 that I see here. I still have $53 million in projected order revenue that I could drill into and see more detail of, but I'm really kind of focused on Dove. And if I drill into Dove, I have the availability of Googling that account and seeing, actually what they do if I don't know enough about them. But I'm looking for a customer snapshot. So if I click on this, I'm going to end up seeing a snapshot view of how this customer is doing with me. $884,000 in sales this year compared to $685,000 last year. We're in July right now, so we're doing a lot better with them than we did before. We've got $55,000 in outstanding AR over here on the right, and their average days to pay is 52 days. They have bought 42 of those scroll compressors and also a Misty Harbor boat and a couple of other different things, some custom stairs. I'm able to see they probably have 30 orders in the system that are still outstanding, and I can drill into those orders to get detail from there. I can also see any notes that may be attached to the order. So if an order is being held for a particular reason, like waiting for an updated ship-to address, I can see that information from there. So this kind of completes the whole order-to-cash process from beginning to end. And I'm going to just log back out to my main screen here, and I think I'm going to pass this over to Nick at this point.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you walking us through that. And we've been getting some questions posed as we've went along, and I thought maybe for now we have a little bit of time left. Maybe we answer a few of these. What do you think?
Let's give it a shot.
Okay. First off, one asked if you're able to filter out quotes compared to the sales orders using the mobile app. Open Customer Orders tab.
Don't know that right at this point there's a filter for it, unless it's an order type that we can sort by. If we flip the sort on it, you may be able to see all the quotes on top. Although I do believe that my orders and quote numbers are so far off that if I just typed in the quote number into it, I'd surface that quote because it is existing in the same table.
Okay. Here, let's trying to access these a little bit better here. Okay. Here's one, and I keep trying to remember what this was in relation to. Can you hide the price? It might have been around the same time as the last question. So not too much more detail. I guess, can you talk a little bit more about how you're able to configure some of Macola 10?
Well, it really kind of depends. If we're referring to hiding the price, it kind of depends on which screens we're using. We've got a couple of different methods for entering orders. One is what would be called the desktop version, and the other being a web-based interface, and the third, which we've had for quite a while, and the third being what's coming out of development right now, where they're actually looking for feedback on those particular screens. So if you have the availability to look at some of the other pre-recorded demos on them on our YouTube site, development is looking for feedback on them. So in two of those configurations, I'm able to hide costing and I'm able to hide pricing on it. I don't think that's available at this moment in the 10.5 new user interface screens, but we are taking collections as to what people think are important, and the development team is dialing in those features kind of in each release. We just saw a whole handful of new functionality on those screens in the release that came out last week.
Okay. Here's one. Can you modify the commission?
Well, again, that's an open question. Let's take it to the newest screens. I can take my commission and I can assign it to no salesperson, or I can assign 100% of it to one salesperson, or I can go up to 3 different salespeople who are involved and give each one of them a percentage of 100 as long as it totals to 100. The commission itself is set up by a combination of the customer and the item that is related, the customer type and the item in this particular environment.
Okay. Do you need to purchase additional licenses to use the exact the Macola mobile app for your iPhone or iPad?
Okay, that's a really good question. No. I'm able to get to, I just picked up an iPad yesterday and sat down and typed in my server address to it, and I can get to it without loading any software on my iPad using what was shown as the native app. That's where you're seeing that Cambridge compressor, and you're seeing the functionality of getting to everything, and then again the new screens that are involved. As far as an iPhone is concerned, or a smartphone, you have to download the app from the App Store, and those apps are free. So no, if you're a licensed user of Macola in your building, these functions are available without any further licensing outside of the building.
Okay. Here's one. Actually, I don't know if it's a statement or a question. Macola is ready for cloud.
I'm going to say that would be a question.
Sure.
And the way I like to look at this is that Macola has been a desktop application for many years. Over the last several, we've put a big push on getting it visible and available on the internet. And so a lot of what you just saw is all available to us on the internet. With that said, the server I demonstrated off of is located in the Netherlands. So I'm able to do all of what you just saw through something that's sitting in a cloud environment, but not 100% of the software can be accessed through sort of a web direct address. So let me explain that real simple. If I wanted to receive material in the dock door of my shipping dock, that I'm probably not going to be doing on my cell phone or on my tablet from a hotel. Those particular functions are still a client-based application, and the dev team is making great strides towards putting the functionality in mobile that people would actually use on a mobile device first.
Okay. Hopefully that answered your question, or if it was a statement, it supported it. So here's one. Has there been any discussion on when a field on the sales order or when billing to enter the tracking number so that it displays on the invoice?
Okay. That's often something that we see being done through either shipping software or through some of the other third-party applications. And let me explain. In my own businesses, I've had UPS and FedEx modify their software so that when something ships out, like we shipped out that air compressor, their software will write back the tracking information, the weight, the packages, and update the freight costs inside of Macola for me. Now, there are some other utilities out there, some companies that have made great shipping solution that eliminate, World Ship, and they eliminate the FedEx shipping software, and you're using one piece of software. It doesn't matter what carrier you're typing it into. If you put an order number in, it's going to associate it to either FedEx or UPS or USPS, and then write the tracking information back. So there's several approaches to that, but it's actually your shipping software that's making that communication back of the tracking information. And you'd want that attached to the order so that automation can pick it up and send the shipping notification to the customer that this order shipped on this date with this tracking information.
So in short, Macola can play nice with other solutions as well for added functionality.
That's correct.
Okay, okay. Well, I wanted to wrap up here, and I didn't get through all the questions. If you have questions, just post them to me or reply to the email that you get tomorrow. I'll be happy to follow up with them. A few parting thoughts. Macola is a single solution with all-inclusive value. Anywhere web and mobile access. We prefer configuration, or we like to say configuration instead of customization. Increased efficiencies with automated workflows, flexible purchase options, and personalizable views into the data that matters the most to you. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about this, please visit Macola.com. We have all kinds of ebooks, infographics, customer success stories. You could watch YouTube videos that discuss the 10.5.1 release, actually, that just came out. Or if you can find additional product information at the Macola site as well. Again, we're going to follow up with an email with a link to view the on-demand webinar here. There's going to be a survey at the end here. And we'd love to get your feedback on how we did, and appreciate any of your thoughts. So with that said, I just want to thank everyone once again for spending your time with us this afternoon. Thank you, Steve, and everyone, have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank you all.